Welcome to Film Strip and our American Ninja series.
Ninja? What the hell are ninja?
Featuring Ron.
Hey! We don't stop till one of us goes down. Now! Let's go!
And Jay.
Who is he? I don't know. He's a new recruit. I don't even know his name.
He possessed great skills.
These podcasts will be spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and details of the films.
And if a word of this gets out, I'll have you shot. You understand?
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Ron.
This is our review of American Ninja 3, Blood Hunt, starring Steve James, Marjo Gortner, and David Bradley as the American Ninja. Directed by Cedric Sunstorm, released in 1989 on an unknown budget. I looked everywhere, could not find out how much they spent on this, but I do know it grossed $1.5 million in its combined box office run, and a very short run it had. So, first question right out of the gate, where's Michael Dudikoff?
Well, I went digging on this today, and I found an article from 1992 talking about the nascent film industry in South Africa. And one of the movies they specifically mentioned was the American Ninja series, since it's still the most popular film filmed in South Africa, not named District 9. But basically, in that article, it says that Michael Dudikoff got so much flack for starring in an American Ninja 2 and going across the apartheid ban to South Africa that he refused to go back to film in that country for American Ninja 3. Hence, they went out and got David Bradley.
Oh, okay. And they tried to get the guy from No Retreat, No Surrender, right? And he said no. That's what I read. So.
Yes, he's another guy who said no, presumably for the same apartheid-based reason.
Yeah. I wonder if it didn't have something to do with the lack of zeros at the end of the check.
I'm sure that had something to do with it too, but
yeah.
I can only imagine like Danny Glover cornering poor Michael Dudikoff at a party and just reading him the riot act.
Wait a minute. Well, first off, the fact that Michael Dudikoff and Danny Glover would be at the same Hollywood party is the first thing. So I don't know if the star of the Lethal Weapon series at the time and The Color Purple, among many other things, would be hanging with the Golden Globus schlock crowd. Though he did do Predator too, so maybe so. But
I just figured it had something to do with apartheid.
Yeah. Certainly a good guess. So very, very interesting, though. Didn't realize that. Well, I didn't even know this was shot in South Africa because it's not in the credits anywhere. I guess they didn't want the heat from it either. So
yeah, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah. So, no reason to call attention to that fact. So, well, you know what? I was sitting here thinking, though, can you think of another series, action or not, that replaced the lead star, like went on to a different one in, one of the further sequels? I can think of one, and it's Fast and Furious. They went away from Vin Diesel and Paul Walker and got Lucas Black in that third one for Tokyo Drift. And rumor is he's going to make an appearance somewhere in 7. But, that series is huge and everything. But the third one is the one that everybody's like, oh, that's the terrible one. And oddly enough, because it doesn't have Vin Diesel and Paul Walker in it, who knew that was key to your success? But apparently so. But can you think of another series where it continued on, but the main star did not?
Yeah, I think it was Kickboxer. They made a bunch of Kickboxer movies with your friend and mine, Sasha Mitchell. That's one of the ones for sure.
Yeah. I guess the next Karate Kid, when they stuck Hilary Swank in there, I guess that if you want to count that, that's another one. There's all these martial arts films. They just replaced the somewhat central karate figure, which is interesting. Though they don't replace Steve James, and we'll certainly talk about his involvement in this film in some way. But I guess before we get any further, I really was wondering, what are we going to, what were we going to do? Because I said last time, action films like this, if you're going to have like a team of guys, this is the easiest thing to spawn off because all you got to do is just stick them in a different adventure every time. And more or less that can work or not, depending on how well the adventure's set up. But I figured that's just what it was going to be. I really didn't know Dudikoff wasn't in this until I turned it on, and I was like, well, where's Michael Dudikoff? And then I get this David Bradley guy.
Hopefully Michael Dudikoff's waiting for his script for Expendables 3, because I've been looking forward to that for years.
Yeah, I'm like, why is he not in that, by the way? So
he's been between Expendables and Expendables 2, I wrote a list of people of Den of Geek that I thought should be in Expendables 2, and I brought out names like Michael Dudikoff, Sasha Mitchell, and Cynthia Rothrock, and all those great 80s karate guy, karate girl, early 90s people.
Yes.
That are just waiting to make a comeback. But,
that, and if you can't get William Zabka in there somewhere.
Yeah. He was definitely on the list.
Yeah, so I'm with you. But I guess we need to get into American Ninja 3 here. So, Ron, tell us what in the heck is the Blood Hunt?
Before we do that, I've actually got another movie. I just thought of it. The Substitute. They switched Tom Berenger out for Treat Williams.
Yes, for Treat Williams. Treat Williams, the poor man's Tom Berenger.
I would say he's almost the homeless man's Tom Berenger. He's that. Anyway.
Yeah, he goes pretty well down the list to get to a little Treat. So, though I think there was a movie called Deep Rising that he was in once that I actually did kind of like. It's sort of a cheesy, guilty pleasure kind of thing. I think Famke Jensen's in that too, slumming it. But anyway.
And I liked him in. He was in Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo, the zombie cop movie.
That's right. Oh wow, how can you forget that? It's been a long time since I've seen that one. So
I got it in one of those like Anchor-based 6-packs, and it was I bought it for that movie alone because it's like one of those things you kind of remember, but it's there on the periphery. I
bet that 6-pack came with at least 2 Children of the Corn films and probably a later Halloween film. So somewhere in that pack. So I've seen that pack. So, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us what the Blood Hunt is all about here, Ron, in part 3.
All right. Well, do you remember the Super Ninja plot from American Ninja 2?
Yeah, do I remember that? I wish I could forget it.
Well, it's back, and it's worse than ever.
Yeah.
Sean Davidson, a.k.a. Mr. David Bradley, a.k.a. the poor man's Michael Dudikoff, is the son of a martial artist who is killed in our cold opening. A year of training and a montage later, and he's landing in a small island nation, once again played by South Africa, for a karate tournament. Meanwhile, in the same country, the Cobra, a.k.a. former televangelist and traveling preacher Marjo Gortner, is unveiling a project to create what I think is supposed to be the perfect weapon to a grab bag of random terrorists, including the evil General Andreas, who is the guy who gunned down Sean's dad in the cold opening. But in order to test his mystery virus, he needs to find the Ultimate Warrior, but not the Ultimate Warrior, who would have been a great lead for this movie.
Jim Hellwig would have killed in this, yes.
Probably quite literally, just dismantling poor stuntmen in a coked-up steroid frenzy. But he needs to find the Ultimate Warrior to test it on, hence the karate tournament, and hence the invitation to Mr. Sean Davidson. But among the other competitors in the karate contest is none other than Curtis Jackson, Steve James himself, who knows a thing or two about fighting ninjas. along with the help of their wormy sidekick Dex, it's time to fight through hordes of ninjas and defeat the evil forces of Cobra. But not that Cobra, the Cobra.
Wow, you've hit on what is going to be an overriding theme of my review of this film is how many things it can borrow from, but not that one. It's like, come see the Ramones tribute band in small letters. This feels like a good action movie, almost, is what the title should have been. Yeah.
It's like an action movie loaf, like that pimento loaf at the grocery store that nobody buys in the deli section. It's like that, but with action movie cliches.
Yes, it's like they threw them together in time to come up with this. And wow, I had no idea again what I was getting into watching this, and I had never seen any of this one before. Though I knew I'd seen Marjo Gortner somewhere, and I'm glad you called him out as a former televangelist. So I was like, I knew that guy's hair was from something famous, but I didn't know from where.
Yeah, his claim to fame was he was the youngest ordained minister. He was like 5 years old, traveling around the country. He later did like a pretty good documentary, like debunking his act.
Yeah.
As a televangelist, and then he became a character actor for some reason and was on like Falcon Crest or Knots Landing and Little Love Boat and all that crap that people did in the 70s.
Yeah, man, that is so funny because several of his scenes when they've got him standing up pontificating in the lab which really just looks like some black curtains and a couch set in a room somewhere. It looks like something shot on Knots Landing, or one of those shows. This film has about the same production quality of your standard episode of the A-Team right before Dallas. It's it's bad, and it opens in this 1979, the cold open, the hit at the tournament. Okay, so I'm watching this and I'm going, this looks like they borrowed the set from the All Valley tournament at the end of the Karate Kid, right?
Right.
And everybody's sitting around backstage, and the Cobra, who I don't think we know him as the Cobra at the time, but the Cobra and Andreas, he's not General Andreas at the time, right?
Yeah, he's just Andreas.
Yeah, they're in a car and they're loading up guns and all this, and I feel like I'm watching a scene out of Scarface or something. Like, I don't know what's happening here. There are these two kids in the crowd, and please tell me you found out if this is true or not. Are they overdubbed with like their male counterpart actors? Is that supposed to be Joe and later Sean there as children together?
I honestly could not figure that part out. I can only assume that's who it's supposed to be because they got a lookalike fake Joe.
Yeah.
But I don't think they went and dubbed him. It sounded like the actual kid.
Okay.
Or they dubbed him with other kids who speak English and not Michael Dudikoff.
Yeah. I'll say this too though. The kid that's supposed to be Sean, that sounds like David Bradley doing a high pitched voice. It does not sound like that voice is coming out of that kid.
That's a reasonable guess. I mean, that seems in line with what we know about Golan and Clovis.
Yeah, I mean, that they would want to do that. I mean, I've recently reviewed the Star Wars films, and we didn't really talk about it on there, but there's a big controversy in the old trilogy that Boba Fett got overdubbed with Tamura Morrison, who's the new Boba Fett, or Jango Fett rather, in the prequel trilogy. People were bad about that, or whatever. And I actually thought about that when I was watching this. I was like, everybody's been doing that for years. It did not sound like that was a kid speaking, but at any rate, we have a flash of an Uzi, and Sean's dad is dead along with his trainer or something, or who's supposed to say. And what I find amusing about this, and I'm just going to make light of it because it's silly. Okay, this is not. I'm not taking life not seriously here, but this is ridiculous. Is Sean's dad gets shot in the chest multiple times, and the guy that's been basically massaging out his muscles to get him ready to fight, he goes, "Hey, help him out!" And he kind of looks on him, and he starts sort of like touching him and pushing on him. He didn't really know what he's doing. It's like he's faith healing him or something.
Yeah, maybe it ties back to maybe he expected Marjo Gortner with that great perm to do something about it, but
yeah,
no such luck.
Yeah, no, that was bad. But I did not know what was happening at that point. I just realized that if they were setting up this is going to be the ultimate revenge plot, then I'm going to be real disappointed in this film if they go that cheap. But the funny thing is they don't. That's what blows me away, is that they don't really even follow up on the fact that Sean figures out that that's the guy who killed his dad. It's just sort of there for the audience.
Yeah, and it's like they set it up, and then they halfway. Immediately after they do the ninja training montage, they forget all about the whole revenge angle. And then later on, he just shows up and gets machine gunned for no good reason. And there's not even a payoff. It's not like, that's for my dad.
Yeah.
Or, anything that you would expect in a movie like this, or just any movie in general. It's just completely dropped.
Yeah, it's a total drop out of this, and I can only think that the three people, there's one person credited with the screenplay and then based on characters by the original two. I have a feeling Gary Conway had a lot of other people helping him write the script. It just feels like the kind of script that 9 or 10 people actually write parts of, including the actors, and by the end of it, we don't know who wrote what.
Yeah, maybe the director wrote it, like on the set. It's like, no, this will be great. I mean, we've got $50 extra. We can shoot one more machine gun sequence, and we've got this karate fighting stage set up that we're going to reuse later for part of our evil training laboratory or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's just get some extras in there and shoot a guy.
Yeah, they have doors that lead to nowhere that look like they're part of a shopping mall or something, and then tons of different colored ninjas. There's red ninjas, there's blue, then there's the standard black, which are kind of like the pawn ninjas, I guess. They don't really do much, They just get in the way, and Sean chokes them out a lot. But yeah, I don't know where the budget was going, but clearly not into the script, because the whole thing here is to set this up. Now we get to see Sean's development as a ninja, and you're right. It's like a year later, but he ages 12 years.
It's a 12-year-long year. Yeah. Apparently, it's some sort of ninja magic that ages you into a 35-year-old.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like Michael Dudikoff looked like a young guy in the army. Okay, for better or worse. Sean Davidson, is David Bradley a day under 35? That was my question. I mean, he's a good-looking dude, like built, all that stuff, yeah. But he does not look young enough to have, seen this happen in 1979, and then 10 years later, this is what he turns into. It's for like 20 years later.
Yeah, clearly he's a guy in his 30s, carefully poofing his hair up to hide his receding hairline, that kind of thing.
Now, did you know David Bradley from anything else other than this? I'd never heard of him until this film.
I knew him vaguely from like other movies where he kicked people to death, but he's not exactly, he's not exactly the David Bradley from Harry Potter.
Yeah, he's not that one, and like I said before, he's not Doug Bradley from the Hellraiser series, because that would have been awesome. So, well, of all the crossovers, how Hellraiser versus American Ninja never happened in the 9 Hellraiser sequels, I'll never know. I guess Dimension and Golden Globus never got together.
But apparently Cannon did like him, or Sam Furstenberg, who did the first American Ninja movie, must have seen something he liked, because he did bring David Bradley back for some other flicks that he did, probably also in South Africa.
Yeah.
Some generic cyborg cop and American Samurai.
Yeah, which I think, isn't that the one that got renamed American Ninja 5 by the production company by the end of it or something? So
no, this was a different one. American Ninja 5 had Mark Dacascos in it, who is the chairman on Iron Chef America.
That's almost good enough to throw it in the retrospective, but we won't. So we see Sean develop as a ninja, and I love his ninja master though, because he looks nothing like the stereotypical ninja master, except from like Nintendo video games of the 80s, right? Like it's like he's wearing fake gray hair around dark hair. He's younger than his protege.
Yeah, he's clearly younger than David Bradley, so they glue a fake goatee on him and dye it gray, but they leave his hair like jet black and like kind of an 80s Asian mullet kind of thing. Yeah. One of those ones where it's teased up on top and it's a mullet in the back, like Van Halen hair.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. So, except this would be the Gary Cherone version of the Van Halen. We're going to go with that. So
terrifying.
Yes. So there's nothing more terrifying in that third album. I will hold that up as one of the worst ideas ever. If anybody wants to debate that with me, just find me on Twitter. We'll talk. But anyway, so we get, though, that he is sent off to the world to be, the ninja or whatever that he's supposed to be. And the tournament is on the island. And I was a little fuzzy on what the tournament was, other than like the world's greatest karate champions or something like that are gathering together for some reason. Like, we learn later it's because the Cobra was trying to get the best specimen. But in the first, it's not even really clear what they're fighting for. Is there a trophy? Is there money? Is there women involved? I mean, it's, I don't know. It's kind of vague.
Yeah, it's, just, it's like a Pokemon match. They're just battling to see who wins. Except, with more skull trauma and skeezy dictators.
Yes, all on the side. But we get our Jackson back. Curtis is now out of the army. He says, I've left Joe back in the army, and he's here to fight Steve James back for, I can only imagine, had to be a paycheck. Like, because you talking about mailing it in, man. Like, this is the most phoned in, bad performance I've seen since the last time I saw Mario Van Peebles in a movie.
And it's sad because He's the only character with a consistent motivation. If you remember from the first American Ninja movie, all he wanted to do was set up exhibitions with Joe.
Yes.
And go out and make some money. And here he is. He shows up to this karate tournament, and he's actually there to do a sword play exhibition.
Yeah.
So he'd actually achieved his dream of going and exhibiting his martial arts or whatever. And here he is getting drawn into another ninja controversy, and
which he reminds us of many times. And the ninjas, does it have to be ninjas again? Ninjas. I'm like, man, this guy, it's like every other line is about how he hates ninjas. And I don't know, it's like we got it the first 3 times he said it, guys. He doesn't need to keep reminding us of this. But every line is either, hey, sweetheart, or some other degrading pet name for a female co-star, or, oh, man, I hate ninjas.
Well, he's our only connection to American Ninja 1 and 2. He's got to make sure that we really remember that he was involved in those first 2 movies.
Which, the only thing they call back from, that's a mistake. That's what I'm saying. There's no reason to even have him here because the role he performs is very perfunctory. Like, I would argue you could even do without him completely. You could have just had the goofy Dexter, and it would have been fine. There was no reason to have Jackson in this at all. He does nothing in this film except, again, spout off those lines.
Well, and he's still the most competent fighter in the movie, even with that seems to be the only time he actually shows any signs of life is when he's doing his kung fu. Or when he's taking off his pointless leather vest to get engaged into some kung fu.
My question, though, about him with his kung fu is now it comes with, like, puns and lines. And look, I'm a Buffy fan, so I'm used to kung fu with puns. Like, that's part of that shtick or whatever. But that was several years away at this point. And I'm going, I don't know why Jackson needed lines now to go like, I hate you. You annoy me. Get out of my way. He's always trying to, like, set up and say something, cool before he hits him. And I'm reminded of, the recent 22 Jump Street where Channing Tatum has to throw a grenade and says, something cool, as he falls back against the screen. I'm like, that would have been better than anything Jackson says in this film.
Well, Jackson learned his kung fu. I don't know if you know this, but Jackson learned his kung fu from the master of kung fu, Dolomite. and part of Dolomite style kung fu is that you got to be ready with some kind of quip or some smart comment, or something leather.
I am so glad you mentioned that. I had not thought of Dolomite, but that now explains Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection on a totally different level for me. So I wish I had thought of that when I reviewed that. That's a great observation. Because, yes, it is very much Dolomite, as in awful. And it just goes off so flat the whole time. And, yeah.
The kung fu's better than Dolomite. The jokes are not.
Yes, this is true. Dolomite will last. The jokes in this, I couldn't even, remember most of them. They're just ridiculous. But we do introduce our comic relief or something, Dexter. This guy, when I saw him the first time, I was like, I just want to know what act he's going to die in. And the fact that he made it to the 3rd act, I was impressed. Because I thought this dude was chump change the first, by the end of the 1st act, he was going to be dead. And he hung around for an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's clearly the guy that they set up to die and to start off the journey of revenge, except like the dead father in the cold opening, they forget that he's there and that they're supposed to kill him until they get closer to the end, and it's like, oh, crap, we forgot this guy. We better take care of him.
Yeah, and that it's going to motivate these guys. They act like they're lifelong friends. They just met. Like, he knows who these 2 guys are, but he doesn't. But they don't know anything about him. And what's his specialty even?
He's the wormy sidekick. I don't know. He's like the sleazy trying to get laid guy
all the time. You're right about that.
Yeah, and he's using his two actually skilled martial artist friends as like chick bait.
Like, he's going to pick up the sloppy thirds off of them, pretty much. That's what he's going to do. Clearly,
because if you can't get Steve James or David Bradley, you're going to go for Wormy the sidekick.
Yeah, because, sure, why not? Because, you think James and Bradley have, I don't know, respectively 100 and maybe 75 pounds on this guy?
Clearly, yeah.
I mean, those guys are actually athletes. Like, they look great. This dude looks like they pulled him off of, the Baywatch Nights knockoff or something, and put him. I mean, that's what he reminded me of. It's one of those guys. He just needed the yellow swimsuit.
He's a lost nerd from Revenge of the Nerds, like a Revenge of the Nerds sequel.
There you go. That comes in the next round too. By the way, part 4. We'll come back to Revenge of the Nerds, but
clearly.
And our people. But yeah, we meet them. We catch up with the Cobra now, who's grown his hair out a little bit more, and now has a compound. He's got every one of these movies feature the same thing. The evil guy has his own compound on the island that they're on. And I'm like, man, the one thing evil in this series has got down is good real estate investment. Like, they realize at first you got to have a place to incubate your violence from. Otherwise, you're just wasting time.
If you don't have a compound, can you really call yourself like a megalomaniac?
True.
I mean, I don't think so. You need like a volcano lair or like an old abandoned factory or a ninja training ground, or preferably all three if you can pull it off.
But yeah, you just make all three happen by changing the set drapes. So because there are no walls in this film, there are drapes and fake glass standing up.
And that weird naked woman painting.
Yes. Oh,
that he's always pontificating in front of, that I didn't understand the purpose of.
Yeah, they don't pay that off at all. But we meet him, and we also meet one of his chief henchmen. Of course, we see General Andreas is still around. He's one of the terrorists. I think you called him the grab bag of terrorists, which is about right. That are there to, see him test out his virus on the perfect specimen and all this. And we also check up with his main henchwoman this time, Chan Lee. In this film. Talk about your bad mohawks.
Oh, yeah, that's some great, that's some world-class Tia Carrera style hair. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, too bad that's not Tia Carrera behind it. Okay.
Well, no, clearly not.
And what we'll learn about her is that she's like one of Zartan's people off of G.I. Joe. She can perfectly impersonate different people, and like the secretary of the island's secretary or whatever, the ambassador, it looks like Sean Young. So she's doing a Sean Young impersonation, and she impersonates, Sean Davidson's master at some point in the whole thing, even though she's a foot shorter than both of them.
Yeah, Izumo. Well,
Yeah.
I guess once you glue on the goatee, it just, she's already kind of got the hair for it.
Yeah, she does. It's true. One wonders if there actually wasn't Izumo, or they just did that makeup with her both times to save on production. So. But I liked her, though, because unlike our last henchmen all around that are always playing it, to either side, they're playing both sides, right? You realize that she actually has, somewhat of a soul about this. Like, once she learns what's going on, she turns to the good side.
Right. She's just a dupe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you not buy whatever Marjo Gortner's trying to sell you?
Yeah, apparently a lot of people did in his life, according to your reading of his resume. So
Well, apparently so. I mean, She falls for it. All the grab bag of terrorists showed up. He organized this pointless karate tournament because apparently martial artists are less susceptible to poison than everybody else, I guess.
That's what I got. I was like, if you want to test out a super poison on people and find the perfect specimen from that, why, you mentioned the Ultimate Warrior, why don't you go after a pro wrestler? They've already got the chemical tolerance, per se.
Oh, yeah, clearly. Or, you've got a whole room full of, you've got those 4 naked guys on platforms, or those 4 guys in the thongs on the platforms.
Yeah.
You could test it on them. You've got dozens of ninjas, apparently a limitless supply of ninjas. You could just say, well, I know this poison is good because it just killed 37 ninjas.
Yeah.
And like 2-3 shirtless naked guys.
Yeah, now explain to me what the plan is here. The plan is to find the perfect specimen, so he finds out how strong the poison is. But he's not going to keep the specimen. I don't understand what he's trying to do once he finds the ultimate weapon. Because the terrorists just want the virus, right?
Right, and General Andreas is pretty tired of the song and dance routine. He just wants his poison, and he wants his terrorism. I think he's basically saying, look, if it'll kill David Bradley, clearly it'll kill, any dozen of Wallace Shawns or whoever you're killing.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're killing Wallace Shawn, but okay.
Yeah. I don't, like I said, I didn't understand Evil's plan other than they were trying to sell something, but he was first going to test it on someone to see how strong it wasn't. I don't know. It was a little convoluted because at first I thought, oh, it's just like you said, it's the American Ninja 2 thing. They're trying to make super ninjas, but not really. I mean, he's not really trying to make the super ninja this time.
No, and the whole karate tournament is absolutely pointless, except as a plot device to get everybody on this island of Triana, I think is what they call it.
Right. Where is? I don't know where that's supposed to be. Like, I know it's South Africa, but I don't know where this is supposed to take place.
I think it's yet another like Caribbean island.
Yeah,
I think.
Go ahead.
Apparently, like all the islands in the Caribbean are just infested with evil villains, and nobody told me this when I was going to Jamaica as a teenager.
Yeah, that would have been useful information that you would know that there are ninja running about. That's not the world that we're in here. So we see now that the first act ends with the random, I don't know, kidnapping of someone, and Sean starts running down the streets and goes to fight the ninjas in town. Like that's where we end up with this. And I have to tell you, I was watching this film, and it dawned on me for the first time in this series how incredibly bored I was at that moment, and I was only 12 minutes into it. And I thought, man, we got a long way to go. And this is not hooking me in at all, because as cool as David Bradley may look, and he can do some martial arts and stuff, the fights are horrible. Like, he just basically grabs people, chokes them out, and drops them. At least Dudikoff kicked him to the moon.
Yeah, or my favorite was when he grabbed the ninja and broke his neck on the stairs.
Yeah.
And just kind of threw him down the stairs for emphasis, I guess. Yeah. I mean, you already broke his neck. He's clearly dead. I don't know why you'd throw him down a flight of stairs. But the one thing I can say for this movie is at least Sean gets beat up quite a bit. I mean, Michael Dudikoff, he would just mow through these ninjas cutting the grass. But at least David Bradley's willing to take a few punches in the process to make it look a little bit more even if he's clearly going to throw guys over railings and kill them.
He kick them off the side of buildings. I don't know. It's this trap that gets set for Sean, because Chan Lee tells the Cobra, I've seen the perfect specimen. I've already seen him fight, because we do get one karate fight with him. And what was amazing to that is, having called high school football games before, like on the radio, doing the play-by-play, the worst thing was to go to another team's stadium where the in-stadium PA announcer felt like it was his job to do play-by-play. So he's talking over you the whole time. That's what I felt like. I've seen karate tournaments. I've never seen them talk through the action the way that they do in this one.
Oh, no. He was serving both roles, I guess. He was the announcer and the color commentator.
Yeah, it was very bad.
Yeah, clearly you couldn't get like a PA or somebody else who spoke English to be the other guy.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I didn't know why we needed the constant commentary. Like, it was ringing over the loudspeakers in the stadium. Now Davidson backs up. Oh, he's going for the sidekick. I'm like, what? Nobody does that. So it's I don't know. It's really weird. I remember thinking that, and it being the only part of the first act where I was really entertained. So mainly because it just reminded me of those times of being in some random town, and you get homerific on the microphone next to you, and you're trying to fight past that while you're doing a broadcast. But yeah, he takes on the ninjas in town, and of course now it's all about what's going on.
My favorite part of that whole scene of the kidnapping of Chan Lee, a.k.a. Fake Azumo, was that as they're dragging this flailing Asian man through the streets, everyone in the background is just not paying attention at all. Like, here's this dude kick fighting ninjas and breaking necks and throwing people off of stuff, and everybody around is just kind of ignoring that they don't see a bunch of ninjas fighting a guy in a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah, I mean, the worst extras directing ever. Like, act completely oblivious to anything happening over here. Okay. No problem. Like, women walking by heading to the beach, no problem. Ninja flies by. It's like it's every day, If this had been like, Chinatown, all right, or something like that, you could almost play that off as part of the joke, like, that's every day around here, or Hong Kong, if it's Taiwan, something like that. But this is South Africa. There aren't ninja growing on trees in the, whatever Caribbean island this is not, and there aren't ninjas there either. So that would stop traffic, you would think. I noticed that as well.
And there's also the wonderfully terrible underwater ninja fight.
Oh, yes. Can we talk about that, please? Because when I see underwater fights, I automatically think of Thunderball, James Bond, and a pretty good one, for what it was at the time. I don't think you can punch with the same force underwater that you can in just normal atmosphere. But it appears
no,
so.
Clearly not. But maybe he's the master of the Bruce Lee, two-edge punch, and he's able to somehow, I don't know, manipulate physics with his ninja magic, so he's getting a full-fledged punch out of a very slow-motion, easily avoided wind-up and punch underwater. I mean, I had a pool when I was a kid, so, and I also took Taekwondo. Mm-hmm. So go out to the pool, throw some kicks around, throw some punches around, and it is not easy to punch through water and with any kind of force. You're just crawling. There's a reason, there's the famous shots of Muhammad Ali training underwater in a pool. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of resistance you're fighting against, and it's, and it doesn't exactly lend itself to a very exciting fist fight.
Yeah.
Even if you do cut away to stock footage of sharks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the amazing part, were the sharks. I was like, well, I need the shark to come up, and I need him to karate chop a shark. Like, I needed that. I needed a roundhouse to the shark's gills for me to buy that was a legitimate threat.
And if he had done that, this would have become the best movie since Zombie, when the shark fought the zombie.
Yes, it would have been. But they didn't have the budget for that, for the fake shark from Jaws 4 to come over and do a cameo in this film, unfortunately. So
just cut the stock footage of the Fulci movie and just maybe put a wig on the zombie.
Just give a shot, something. If this had been made in the days of sci-fi's excuse for CGI, that would be happening. You realize that, but we'd have one of the 90210 cast. Karate chop a shark, but
well, Sharknado 2 is coming up. There's still time.
This is true. There's a sequence. If that happens in that film, by the way, we're filing suit. So, because I'm certain that we can win that. But anyway, so it's the bad underwater fight. But what I love is how Jackson then tries to intervene with help with the local authorities. And his idea is to bribe them, cajole them, and insult them into helping him, the local police. That is generally not your way to make friends in a place that you've never been.
Well, the bribery part might work, but the rest of it,
Yeah, but then he takes it back, Indian giver. I mean...
Well, if they're not going to help you, there's no reason to bribe them anymore. You got to save that $20 in case you need, I don't know, to get out of a jaywalking charge or something.
It needs a bit more oil for those biceps that are always, it's the sun's out, the gun's out with him. That's the rule apparently in the second film or the third film here. But I don't know. I love how he, Sean, and Dexter come up with this plan of we got to find out what's going on in this compound. We got to find out what's going on in this compound. So their answer for that is, let's just commit grand theft auto.
Oh, yeah, well, clearly.
Three counts.
That's what your $20 is for.
Exactly, right? That just gets you a pass. They steal two, what are they, motorized hang gliders and a very beat-up Chevy to go and stage a raid.
They are ultralights.
Ultralights, okay.
Yeah, it was a thing back in the 80s where you basically took a small boat engine and strapped it to a hang glider and called it an airplane.
That sounds like a really great idea. It's for two guys that have never, like, we didn't know, either one of them knew anything about flying. Like, if Jackson, or let's say if Joe Armstrong had been in this movie, I would have bought it simply because the whole special forces thing. You're like, okay, fine, they're Rambo, they could do everything, right? But Jackson drives the truck. You get Dexter and Sean flying the ultralights into the compound.
Well, it was probably because you couldn't. There wasn't anybody large enough who knew how to fly the thing to make them a convincing Jackson. I mean, you could once you put the helmets on, you can make anybody be David Bradley and the Wormy guy.
Yeah.
But you can't hide those guns.
No, not at all. You couldn't even fake pad that out. You're right. So that's a good point. I don't know why I gave them credit for doing their own stunts. I'm certain they did not. So. And flying this in. But this scene, what got me about it was how long it lasts. It's like multiple angle aerial shots of these guys flying and Jackson driving on the road with no dialogue. So,
yeah, I guess they were like 20 minutes short when they finished the movie, and then they decided to just go back and go to the Roger Corman School of Padding and just show us everything about how you fly an ultralight. And what to do when you break the fuel line and the thing starts stalling out, or whatever happened to Dexter.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, is we always have to have an accident with one of these things, right? What kills me is that no one ever misses these three vehicles. No one. Like, I don't even know where they got them from. Well, it doesn't even matter, right? It's just like, whatever. You know, they're gone, and it's on now. But the whole point is so that they can sneak up to the compound. Like, this island's not that big. Why did they need, an aerial attack to get around it? They don't learn anything from the surveillance.
And I don't know how you can sneak up on somebody when you're flying through the air on a brightly colored
lawnmower
set of fabric. Yeah, a brightly colored go-kart with wings.
Yeah, I don't think that kills the stealthiness of the ninja-ism.
And it's not like they're quiet either. It's legitimately like an unmufflered, 5 horsepower chainsaw engine.
Yes, it's as if you had taken your local JC's haunted house and the wing where they do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre part and taking it in the air over you. You would know that was coming from miles away. Like, there's no reason there, right? And when they get there, it's basically, Sean, like, I'm going to infiltrate, you guys hang out. And for 25 minutes, really until the next morning, Dexter and Jackson just hang out in the bushes.
And it would have probably been a more interesting movie than following David Bradley around inside the compound that kind of looks like an old airport.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It was very, very. Again, I didn't understand why Jackson was there. I got why Dexter was there. If you want to stick him off to the side, I don't care about him. That's fine. But as Sean gets in there, he gets in a fight with the Blue Ninjas, right? And he starts, using his skills, and he's cracking skulls. But then the Black Ninjas show up, and there's too many of them, and they tase him / tranquilize him with a gun. I don't know what was happening. It's like they stuck a paintball gun up to him, and he was told to shiver on the ground.
I think it was supposed to be a taser, or like a cattle prod sort of thing, but it completely. What good is that virus then if you could just disable this great ninja warrior with electricity like a normal person?
And they lay him on a couch in the Cobra's office, and he's unable to move. It's like he's paralyzed temporarily. And all he can do is sort of move his neck to look at the Cobra as he walks around him and begins to pontificate about his grand plan.
Which still makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. Like, he even explains it, right? He tells him the tournament's all a sham. I was looking for the greatest specimen, and it just happens to be you. And once you've run off your usefulness and are dead, it'll be gone. And I don't understand. Like, well, if you don't want him to survive it, doesn't that just prove that the poison's actually potent? And again, couldn't we have proven that on a herd of cattle? or something else. Like, it seems to be you're attracting a lot of attention to yourself to commit murder against someone you invited to an island to sell something to people who don't care.
And this isn't a nobody. This is a guy who was on the cover of Karate Monthly.
Yeah.
Like 2 months in a row. This is someone that Dexter sees him at the airport, and he immediately recognizes him and says, "Hey, you're Sean Davidson. You're that guy who's on the cover of that magazine."
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, this is someone who will be missed. And you've chosen this as the person that you want to kill, so that the terrorists will pay you more for your deadly poison. That's the funny thing, is the terrorists are like, just give us the poison.
Yeah, they're clearly sold on the idea of poison. They're all on board.
Yes.
The Arabs and the guy who looks like Gaddafi,
Yes.
the random African warlord looking guys,
Yes.
they're all on board with this poison. They don't need the whole song and dance karate tournament. They don't need Chun-Li disguising herself. They don't need Sean Davidson at all. They're just like, okay, let's have some poison. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. Okay, we got cash. Will you take cash? And Cobra, who, by the way, they have never explained the Cobra name, and they only do it in the ending song, which we'll talk about when we get there. But they haven't really given us much for that. But no, he insists upon talking about the power of this new disease and on and on. Well, they throw Sean in a cell, and Chan-Li goes down there to find him. And she's like, I know something's not right about here. What's going on? And who all knows about the poison? Or what's happening here? And he was like, my two friends, the cops in town, the secretary, the ambassador, and all this. And that's when she goes and, in one of the worst secrets of the film, infiltrates the Cobra, does the interview with him, and then, of course, drives out of the compound, revealing who she really was as she kills a bunch of ninjas on her way out. Like, did you have was there any shock to you at all that was Chan-Li the whole time?
No, not really.
Yeah.
It's pretty clearly set up that I think at a certain point in this movie, it's safe to assume that anyone can be Chan-Li or Chan-Li, whichever it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is.
I think it's Chan-Li.
Chan-Li. Okay. At a certain point, every woman in the movie is her. Every Asian in the movie is also her.
Yes.
And she could be anybody who isn't Marjo Gortner or David Bradley or
Steve James.
Yeah, Steve James. She could be anybody else in this movie, because clearly that's the magic of the ninja.
Yeah. The magic of that the ninjette, as Curtis calls her in the film. Now we got ninjettes, and I'm like, well, that's mildly inappropriate. So, got from you, yeah, Michelle Chan. I don't know her from anything else, but I want to say this: she gets my hand clap for an incredible Sean Young impersonation, because when she's playing that secretary, that I was like, this is somebody who's worked with Sean Young that is making fun of her, because that's the only way to explain that performance.
Oh, clearly, yeah. Somebody was still holding a grudge about Blade Runner or something.
They must have been in the room when she walked in as Catwoman or something in the Batman Returns days. Maybe that was it. But at any rate, that secret now spoiled, because she pulls off the mask and stuff. So we find out, okay, that's who she is. She leaves the compound in disguise. And she goes back to tell Jackson and Dexter, here's what's up. We got to go help Sean, because if we don't get him the antidote in time, he's going to die, right? Like, they infect Sean with the virus. And so now the clock is ticking. Even though they don't really tell us how long it's supposed to take, it's going to be at some point.
Oh, we completely glossed over the car chase
Yes.
with Dr. What's-His-Name, the associate of the Cobra.
Yeah.
Who I can only assume they call him Cobra because he's so into poisoning.
Maybe that's it.
He does have that whole 5-minute explanation about bacteriophages and all that stuff, chemistry and science and nerd stuff.
Yeah.
That clearly none of the people he was talking to were interested in it at all, because they weren't paying attention, and neither was I. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I didn't even remember it. I just knew he was talking about. I actually wrote in my notes something about the plan poisoning something. Still not sure why we need to poison someone before the terrorists buy.
Right.
Still not sure. So.
I also liked during the car chase. Now Not only did the car crashed into some boxes, and the boxes then exploded because apparently they're boxes full of dynamite.
Yes, because
But
South
the car-
Africa just lays around.
Well, clearly, but the car drives out undamaged. Then, excuse me, in the next shot, the car is on fire, and then it explodes from the back seat out. Not even like from the front or from the gas tank. It's literally, there's some explosives in the back seat that blow up. And that's how you get rid of that Buick or whatever it was.
See, that's when you can tell you've got people in charge that don't even know what they're doing in a cheesy action film. If you don't get anything else right, you got to at least get the effects right in these movies. You got to at least make the killing and blowing up look good, right? And it's complete. It's like it's always a half second behind. Like the timers are all off. It's like you bought cheap fireworks, you lit the fuse, and you just wait for something to happen. And these people clearly didn't know what they were doing. And I'm going to say it, too. I don't think the director knew what he was doing either. I think he could shoot aerial scenes because there's a lot of crane shots in this film for no reason at all. And that's all he could really shoot. Everything else is horrible. Everything is blocked wrong. The sets look bad. And then there's the shots of the Cobra are as if we're sitting at his feet looking at him talk the whole time. There's never a straight-on shot of the guy.
Yeah, it's all shot really weirdly. I can only assume because they found some random South African who they thought could be a director, and they put him in charge. Because he is from South Africa, and he was like a theatrical director.
Yeah.
And apparently they just said, okay, stand behind this camera and tell these guys what to do. And I can only assume that he's blocking everything like it's a stage play, and that's why the camera positions are all wrong. Except for the crane shots, which clearly they threw in because they had rented that crane and they weren't about to give it back early.
Rented it, borrowed it, stole it, kind of like the Airlight. Who knows, right? So, but they're all there. So Jackson and Dexter have to come up with the breakout plan, and the plan is essentially we're going to storm the compound, and I'm going to go left and you're going to go right, and that's pretty well it, right? Like I didn't miss anything there.
No, that's pretty much it. For some reason, Dexter is now like wearing a polo shirt that's the same color as the skin. It's this horrible, like salmony pink, florid polo shirt, and he's also apparently at some point learned how to do martial arts, or at least pretend he can do martial arts. Because he's launching these half-hearted kicks at stuntmen and fake punching guys and stuff. And at no point in this movie has he shown any kind of competence in not flying an ultralight, not picking up women at the bar. The only thing he's good at is being obnoxious and like breaking things on accident. And now somehow he knows enough to fight ninjas.
And fight them adeptly. That's the thing, man. Like, he's, like, taking some of them out on his own. I was like, you go, Dexter. I thought you were just going to be cannon fodder. And then I began to think, is this movie stupid enough that he's actually going to live to the end? And it's answered later on that no, that's not the case. But for a while there, I thought, well, he might just live because Jackson seems to save his butt every time he gets into real trouble. Until they split up. Yeah.
I also loved all the terrible foleying in the ninja fights, and then every time ninjas like jumped or fell over railings, because a lot of people fell over railings. Apparently, that's just what you do in South Africa. When you get kicked, you fall over a railing.
Yeah,
because the country's full of rails. But anyway, every time the ninjas jumped or fell, they made this great like whooshing sound that suggests that they're flying through the air at a great rate of speed. When he really just did a backbend over a 4-foot-high rail and like landed on his butt.
Yeah, it's completely staged bad. It's awful. And then they split up, and Jackson goes after the antidote. Right, that's his whole purpose. Is you got to go get the antidote because we gotta save Sean. Right.
Right.
And can we just go ahead and talk about the fact that he guns down the general, and it's like to no fanfare at all?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't make that death like I don't know. When you have buddy cop films or whatever, I think back to like Lethal Weapon, right? And Mel Gibson versus Gary Busey was the main event, but Danny Glover versus General McAllister, in the car in the alley was at least the setup for it, right? And I don't know, it was something to watch. There's no weight at all to the fact that the guy that killed Sean's dad he gets shot up and that's it.
I don't even think that there was an acknowledgement that this is the guy that killed my dad.
Yeah.
I think he just machine guns this guy to death. The first time that he's basically used a gun the whole movie, and then he throws the gun away, and it's like not even. There's no satisfaction to it because I don't think David Bradley knew that the guy he was supposedly shooting was the guy who killed this character's dad. I think they just said, all right, now you shoot this guy who looks like,
ex-mafia member from The Godfather 2. I mean, it's
right, clear,
like,
yeah.
So it's bad. It's ridiculous. But he finds the antidote, so he's going to run back now and save it. Meanwhile, Dexter and Sean gets free, and Dexter and him are running around, and they're beating up ninjas, and Ninja shoots Dexter with an arrow, so he's down, right? Sean picks two arrows up and throws them by hand into two guys that he is no more than 4 feet from, and it impales them both. And they go backward as if they've been shot with a .38. I guess if you can punch people underwater and knock them out, you can do that too. Is that what we're supposed to believe?
Sure. Ninja magic.
Yeah, well, bad ninja magic. Like it's beyond ninja.
But I do like that they've. I do like that they've kept the thing that whoever the lead is in an American Ninja movie can totally grab arrows out of the air.
Yes.
Just catch arrows like all day long.
Yeah.
Except for the one that just happens to get through and kill the sidekick.
I know, that's the thing. I'm like, well, nice catch, Holmes. You got everything else except that one? So poor Dexter. But we do wait.
Maybe it was...
Go ahead.
He was probably just tired of having that guy around.
So I'm just going to let one get through. Nobody will know. It's okay. Yeah, so Dexter.
It was an accident, I swear. I didn't...
Yeah. I mean, do we know that guy? No, I don't know that guy. Okay. I mean, that should have been the conversation as they got out of the evil lair at the end. Chan Li gets killed, though, and that I didn't see coming. I was like, wow, I thought she had turned toward the light side of the Force. I didn't see her getting taken out.
Yeah, that was an unexpected beat, if only because she was the closest thing we had to a romantic lead in the movie.
Yeah, boy, yeah. There's a lack of romance in this film, and it's staggering. The only romance is what Dexter's trying to get game of, as they're picking up chicks in the first, or trying to pick them up in the first act. But yeah, there's no romantic lead in this at all.
Which, at least that's refreshing. I mean, it's at least different from the,
standard action fare. You're right. It's not the same old thing, but I don't know. It would have been something if like her and Sean had some sort of connection beyond that, and maybe Izumo was her master too. I'm rewriting this film for it, and it doesn't need it, but that would have really ticked him off at the end, and that would have been something. Because what happens in the end is the Cobra begins to talk to him about the poison that's racing through his veins that's going to kill him, and then he does this meditation thing, Ron. I don't know what that is that he does where he's trying to focus his energy or something, but he essentially does the whole mind over matter thing to beat the poison.
It's like the ninja magic hand gesture that we saw in the first two American Ninja movies whenever Joe needed extra strength. Apparently it also helps you beat poisoning.
Yeah, it's like the hulking up for ninjas.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have in my notes. I say he hulks up via ninja magic and a spotlight.
Yes, it's the random spotlight. What was that all about?
and the dry ice. Don't forget the dry ice and fog.
Yeah, well, that's everywhere. So the fog machine's on overdrive at this point. But he's standing by the naked men, which we still have. What are those?
I don't know if they're supposed to be like decorations or real dudes.
Well, they turn into red ninjas when he flips a button. So I'm like, are they like experiments? Because they didn't even play it off like he was creating anything.
Right. They're absolutely not explained at all. It's just here's some shirtless extras who turn into ninjas when it's convenient to the plot.
Yeah.
I can only assume that that's maybe that's with the second purpose. Maybe that's like the red and black evil ninjas are the guys who survived American Ninja 2 and are like the super ninjas.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's why they've been like hanging out.
There are a few that made it, and they decided to hang out with this guy, so for a little while.
They were in suspended animation until he threw the switch,
right?
And freed them apparently from their dry prison.
And they last in the fight all of what, 30 seconds, maybe?
Yeah, it's if that.
And then Sean proceeds to kick the Cobra around the lab, and at one point he gets knocked into like a lot of glass, and there's liquid flying about, but the back of his pants appeared that he had soiled himself somewhere while Sean is beating the crap out of him, literally. And I thought, well, I guess they just didn't have time to shoot that again, because that looked bad. But he doesn't, does he kill him? Because he just sort of kicks him and knocks him out, it looks like.
I don't think he's dead.
Okay.
I think he just gives him the Chuck Norris spin kick to the face, and that's it.
Yeah, without the cool Chuck Norris sound effect, unfortunately. There was no or anything. It was just whoosh and somebody breaking a cucumber off stage. It was bad. And what is even better is that Jackson walks in and says, "All right, here's your antidote." He's like, "I don't need it anymore." And at least he calls out, "You know what I went through to get this for you? I wasted my entire part of the third act to get this."
I can only assume that Steve James threw that one in for fun, because
yeah,
I doubt anybody who wrote this movie, and I use "write" in quotation marks, was clever enough to think up something like that. In fact, he probably just ad-libbed all of his lines, all of the little jokes he says while he's fighting. That was probably just him making stuff up to keep himself entertained.
I can believe it. I don't think he was being directed at all. I don't think there was any direction happening in this, and it's pretty clear because he walks off and says, "Can we go do something where we don't have to fight ninjas?" And then we get the song, and I rarely will just sit down and call out theme songs or credit songs, but we got to talk about this. The song is called "The Cobra Strikes," and it essentially explains the plot of the Cobra as if he were the main villain or the main character of the film. In all of its glorious 80s mid-tempo ballad fashion.
Oh yeah, he's clearly the more interesting character of the bunch.
This is true.
So it's only fitting that he gets the the soundtrack nod from George S. Clinton, I believe, is the guy who composed that particular terrible song.
Yes, it is, and not any relation to the Parliament Funkadelic, from what I understand. But
no.
Yes. Oh, what a terrible tune, folks! Really, go YouTube. Just go listen to it. It may be the only thing to bother to listen to in this film. It's that bad. It's
and fittingly, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. Fittingly, I looked up George S. Clinton on the IMDb, and he's the guy who did the music for Mortal Kombat. He did some of the music for a bunch of softcore porn, a lot of TV movies.
This I can see.
Yeah, so clearly this was the perfect choice for this particular flick.
That is amazing that he actually worked in porn, because the music has felt very pornorific, if I may say that, or what you would think of as porn music when you're listening to this. It's very, I don't know, kind of like bad music most of the time, and then they got somebody to sing over it. I guess him. So it's all. So, well, I don't think this is going to be much of a surprise, but what are your final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings for American Ninja 3 Blood Hunt?
Oh, clearly it's an extra large popcorn. No, not at all. Even with my kindness towards the American Ninja series, this one's still definitely a small popcorn, and not necessarily in the so bad it's good kind of way. It's just so bad it's bad. And it's a waste of poor old Steve James and a waste of South Africa.
I agree that it is a complete waste. This film is atrocious. And it is small popcorn in the worst possible way. Just awful. Just everything about it is wrong. If you want to see how to do this completely the wrong way, then watch this film. But otherwise, save yourself that 90 minutes of your life because you'll never get it back, I promise. And I watched this twice for this review. I'll have you know. And so
yeah,
there are 3 hours
I did too.
that I will never see again. And I wonder where it's all gone. And after this, I mean, I know it made $1.5 million worldwide. They couldn't have spent more than $150,000 on the thing. So clearly there was going to be another one. Golden Globus is raking in the dough on these things. So I just wondered. I was like, well, I had no idea what was coming up in part 4, but it can't possibly be any worse than what we've just seen. It can't be nearly as bad. And I guess we'll see when we get to that next time around. So, folks, thanks for joining us in the latest episode of Film Strip. You can find more episodes in the archive section of our website, continuousplaypodcast.com. Click the button that says movies, and you'll go to all the Film Strip shows. You also see the links there for our other podcast ventures, as well as how to hook up with us on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think. And if you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Until next time, for Ron, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for joining us.
Remember the day I found you.
All content used or discussed in this podcast is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504C2, Title 17.
I must therefore ask you to accompany me to the police station to answer several serious questions.